Marriage is worth dying for. That's what St. Valentine believed. Join us for the special Valentine's Day edition of Family Vision. Hey, can I tell you something I'm looking forward to?
Sure.
Valentine's Day.
Really?
Really. It is almost here, and this year is going to be kind of special. A few days before Valentine's Day, we get to spend the whole weekend together.
I know. I am excited about that. I'm very excited about that.
We're going to be at WinShape, the marriage retreat center down in Georgia. This is Chick-fil-A's marriage training ministry. You probably didn't know Chick-fil-A had a marriage training ministry.
Unbelievable.
But they do. It's an amazing place. You should check it out. It's in Georgia. So we'll be down there for 3 days. We've got a day on either side just to be together.
Right.
So my confidence level is pretty high that we're going to have a great Valentine's Day because sometimes this is Valentine's Day number 20.
Well, probably more than 20. Yeah, probably because we were dating. Yes. But out of the 29, Typically dating Valentine's Days go well when you're dating.
We only had one
I know.
of those.
It's kind of the married ones that start to
What I'm trying to say is I'm feeling really excited and good about this one.
Yes.
I think it's going to be great.
I'm excited too.
So today, special Valentine's Day edition of the podcast. We wanted to dig into the little-known history of Saint Valentine. You know, Valentine's Day is not a Hallmark holiday, actually commemorates this Christian man all the way back in the 3rd century. Valentine or Saint Valentine, and he believed so much in Christian marriage that he was willing to die for it.
Right. And, you know, it's interesting that you said that it's not a Hallmark holiday because I think so often there are so many random Hallmark holidays now that you don't even know. You check your calendar and you're like, it's Donut Day or even some of these other ones, May the Force be with you, and, all these different things. But St. Valentine actually was a real person in history, just like St. Patrick was. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know much about him or anything about him till I started actually homeschooling our kids. For me, I actually wore red today because of Valentine's Day. And that's what, as a kid, you just get excited as a girl to wear red, do your little, Valentine's for your class, and that's about the extent of it. And even all us moms out there know the stress of Valentine's Day for school and all of that. There's a lot.
I don't have to deal with that.
There's a lot of prep. You don't realize it's difficult. It is difficult. But St. Valentine really was a real person, and it was just cool to find out more of his story, that he lived in the year 200, and he was a Christian. He actually was pharmacist/physician. Like, he was known for helping people when they were sick. I have this I wish I brought it in today. It's like a picture book about St. Valentine's Day. And that's the one that I've used to really teach our kids about him and just for them to know a little bit of his story. But he lived under the time of Claudius, an emperor who was cruelly persecuting Christians. And when Valentine was arrested because he was marrying people in secret, because Claudius had passed a law, I think, that basically said that men should not get married because he wanted more unmarried men as soldiers. And so he was...
young men weren't allowed to get married because he wanted them in the army, and he thought that if they had wives or children, they would be distracted from their mission of dying for Rome.
Correct. So so Valentine was marrying people in secret, and because of this, he was arrested, and because he refused to disobey God's law and he would not comply with what the emperor wanted, he was put to death. He was martyred, and that is why Saint Valentine is connected with love and marriage.
Right. And I can't help but be amazed at how Satan runs the same playbook over and over again down through history. So what was going on here? Godless rulers wanted to control and deny and diminish marriage so that these men would serve the state, would serve the government, would serve the society. And it's interesting. It's like the devil's using the same strategy now. It's not against the law for a young couple to get married today, but it is against the culture.
Right.
It is against popular wisdom. You're not a criminal if you get married young. You're just a moron. You're foolish. You're missing out on all that young life has to offer you. So here again, Satan's using that same trick to have people delay the beauty of marriage.
Right. Delay or convinced that there's a lot of other better stuff that you have to do before you get married, kind of thinking. Even for people who have a more positive view about marriage, it is very unusual for young people to get, for that to be something promoted about young people getting married early. But what was also interesting to me, I am a
and by
history,
early, we're talking about young 20s, not 14.
not like 16.
Just to clarify.
Right, that's a good clarification. But I love history. I'm kind of a history fanatic, and going into that story of Saint Valentine was just reminded me of this class that I've been teaching through Zoom, and kids coming into my house on ancient Rome, and we're using the curriculum from Francis Schaeffer called "How Should We Then Live?" Probably the hardest title to have to repeat over and over again. But one thing that I learned doing this series was that the Christians in Rome, I used to think that they were persecuted and sent to the arena because they worshipped Jesus. And it wasn't because they worshiped Jesus. It was because they refused to worship the emperor. And that's a very different thing. Like if they had just decided to worship Jesus in their churches, but they would still bow down and worship the emperor, they would not have been persecuted. Similarly, like St. Valentine, if he had decided to continue healing people, but also obeyed the laws of the state, he wouldn't have been persecuted. It was because of his belief in the one and only God, and that only God alone should be worshipped.
Right.
And if there's a conflict between the law of the state and the law of God, that he had to follow the law of God first. So that is such an important distinction that I think is why we do need to help our kids understand, even something as simple as Valentine's Day can turn into a lesson for your kids. You can read this storybook. You can read a little bit on the internet. You can connect why are we celebrating this? Why it's not just about love and romance, but to know the real story of the real man behind the holiday.
That's right. And, the Bible's clear that God calls some people to serve Jesus as a single person. But what should be true for every Christian is that we love marriage and we defend marriage and that we affirm what Jesus taught about marriage. You'll hear today people say, oh, well, Jesus didn't address issues of marriage and manhood and womanhood. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 19. Jesus said, "Have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, therefore, for the reason of marriage, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two will become one flesh." Multiple times in two sentences, Jesus says marriage is between one man and one woman, and he's left one father and one mother. The two are going to become one. They're no longer two, but one flesh, Jesus says. What therefore God has joined together, let man not separate. So again, Jesus defining marriage, what it is and what it isn't. One man, one woman, covenant relationship. And we don't have the right to change the definition of something that God made, something that God created. Not only does Jesus define marriage exclusively between one man and one woman, but he commands that what God has joined together, let man not separate. Now, I think that that's a command to faithfulness in a specific marriage.
Right.
But it's also a command to honor marriage itself. True. Let me give you just a modern example. And this one is more complicated than the 60 seconds I'm going to give it. But it was not long ago in our country that if a man cheated on his wife and then sought a divorce, or the wife took him to court for a divorce, that the court would have consequences for that man related to his infidelity, and those consequences would have to do with the money and the kids. The court was much more likely to give her a whole lot of money and much more likely to give her the kids because they found fault on his part for breaking the marriage covenant, that there would be consequences. So now, a few decades ago, came no-fault divorce, which was invented, by the way, in the Soviet Union in the early 1920s with the explicit goal of destroying the nuclear family. We'll talk to you about that another time. But now in our culture, divorce is easier.
Right.
There's no consequences civilly for adultery, even sometimes no consequences in cases of abuse, as horrific as that is.
Yeah.
And as a result, women are more vulnerable. And what is the net effect? There's more divorces. And this is all part of the enemy's plan. Marriage down, divorce up, more broken families, because thriving godly marriages and families stand in total opposition to Satan's plan for the world.
Yeah, and I just think what you said about Satan using the same playbook over and over, that once again, we just uncover that family matters to God. And the more stable families, the more children coming from stable homes, and actually just the whole more stable our culture is. So even though culture tries to redefine marriage, in reality, when you were talking about that, it just reminded that we can't. Even if we try, we can't, because it is defined. It's not defined by us. It's not created by human beings. So therefore, we as human beings can't recreate it or redefine it. It exists the way God created it to be, between one man and one woman.
That's right. Well, Amy and I share candidly about our marriage journey, how God's been working in our family and our relationship over the years in our book, Visionary Marriage, as well as the video series that goes with that. And you can start reading Visionary Marriage for free today, right now. Just go to our website, visionaryfam.com/marriage, and you can get that free PDF and start taking this journey together.
And I was just thinking, we don't have in this book like a record of the difficult Valentine's days. Like, I'm thinking maybe in
the good ones are in there, maybe.
I don't know. We need a chapter, but let me just give a little 2 cents of advice of a woman married 28 years. If you lower your expectations going into Valentine's Day, that's almost like that's half of your battle for
as a woman?
Yes, as a woman, for a wonderful day. But I mean, honestly, though, but it's true. It's true.
Like, we can't hit a home run every year is what you're trying to say.
I'm just saying, like, that.
We hit 9 out of 10.
I'm just trying to take responsibility for my part of the Valentine's Day disaster equation. And that's my takeaway after 28 years of marriage. Like, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're always... Well, not always, but sometimes you're pleasantly surprised.
I'm not entirely sure how to take this. That is our cue to wrap this up. Join us for upcoming Visionary Family events in your area. February 15th, there's a special event for moms in Geneva, Illinois. February 25 and 26 is the Visionary Family Ministries Conference in Seattle. We are going to be at Calvary Chapel, Lake Stevens. Also coming up in March, there is a Mother-Daughter Connect event. You and Lissy.
Yes, I'm very excited about
Moms, Daughters Together, Saturday morning, March 18th at Wheaton Academy. All the information for our live events is available for you at visionaryfam.com/events. And we're looking forward to our next time with you on Family Vision. It means so much to us to have you be a part of the Family Vision community. If this episode was meaningful for you, would you share it with a friend, with a family member? You can actually partner with us to bring hope and help to families around the world.
We are praying that Family Vision is a blessing to you and your family. So thank you for joining us here.
We look forward to our next time together.